The Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Las Vegas is situated on the traditional homelands of the Nuwuvi Southern Paiute people. We are grateful for the land itself, for those who have stewarded it for generations, and for the opportunity to worship, learn, work, grow, and be in community with this land and her peoples. We encourage everyone present here to engage in continued learning about the indigenous peoples who work and live on this land since time immemorial, including the Las Vegas Paiutes and the Mawapa Band of Paiutes, and about the historical and present realities of colonialism. It is important for us to recognize and appreciate the use of Southern Paiute land as part of our mission to be a welcoming and inclusive place for worship, spiritual enrichment, and exploration within the community. Now I believe we have helpers to light our chalice.
When we gather together, we light the chalice, a symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith. The chalice reminds us that we are connected to a much larger religious tradition that stretches out of the past and reaches around the world and leads into our shared future. And join with me. We light the chalice as a reminder that together we are a beacon in the desert. May its light lead the way to love, acceptance, and justice as we strive for personal and societal transformation.
I used to need the ladder, but I grew up. When you hear the word Advent in December, what do you think of? Some say coming of Christ, some say hope and peace for the coming year, and some say, I don't know what it is. But I'm sure if I asked each person here, I would get a different response. In fact, you know, with Unitarians, if you have 100 Unitarians and you ask them an opinion, you get 150 opinions. So I'd like to start with a little history and then tell you about my personal Advent experience. Advent starts on the fourth Sunday before December 24th, which happens to be today. For many Christians, it's the anticipation of Christ being born, hence the coming of Christ. Lighting the Advent wreath is a custom that began with the Lutherans and the Catholics in the 16th century Germany. Typically, the Advent wreath is a circle of branches or garland, which is what we have here, rosemary, with 4 or 5 candles arranged on the wreath. During the season of Advent, 1 candle on the wreath is lit each Sunday as part of the Advent services. So I'm going to light the first candle. And next week, that candle plus another one will be lit. Then a third will be lit, and then all 4. Sometimes the candles are purple, mauve, lilac, and pink, or sometimes they're all red, as ours is. The first week, as I said, 1 is lit. Each candle has a special meaning. The first one is the candle of hope. Next is the candle of peace, the candle of joy, and last, the candle of love. Today is the candle of hope. Hope that Christ will save the world, hope for the new year where we can start anew, or just hope that the world will be a better place without wars. For me, My father was a Missouri Synod Lutheran minister. Yes, I was a PK. If you don't know what a PK is, it means preacher's kid. We were all a little naughty because we were expected to be perfect in church. Oh, aside, one day they were collecting the offering and my brother had a quarter. He was about 8 years old. And while they were doing the offering, he threw it in the air and said, "Mom, heads or tails?" Of course, my mother was very embarrassed, but anyway, that's it. Preacher's kid. Missouri Synod happens to be the strictest bunch of Lutherans, if you don't know it, where women cannot be on the board, nor ushers. They only could wash the communion cups, sing in the choir, and be Sunday school teachers. That's how strict it was. And Advent had to be followed with the purple, the mauve, the lilac, the pink, with a white candle in the middle being lit on Christmas Eve and also on Christmas Day. My brother and I always had a German Advent calendar. It was a paper village setting with lots of little paper windows to be opened. They were numbered 1 through 24, and each day we read a saying and then opened that day's window. Did anybody else have one of those? Oh, a couple hands up, etc. Yeah, it was fun, and my brother and I would have to flip a coin to see who had even days and who had odd days, because we always wanted to open the window to see the little kid peeking out. As many of you know, I'm a pantheistic humanist believing in the spirituality of nature. But when it comes to the holidays, I have 2 trees in my house. I have a Christmas tree and a Hanukkah tree, and I know some Jews think it should be a Hanukkah bush, but unfortunately, it's my tree, so I call it a tree. All right. But I also have an Advent Santa, which I brought here. And what this is, if you can see it, and I'm going to need some help. What it is, I'll just talk louder. You want to come up? Each ornament, I have 24 ornaments.
If you use this, they can hear.
Okay. I have 24 ornaments, and each one is a number. So, I'm going to put on number,
Can we get this on, Jeff?
on number 1, it has a 1, it has a 1, and I'm going to put that right here on top. And then Saturday was December what? It was December 2nd, and there's the 2. So would you want to put the 2 somewhere on the tree? Wherever you want. Eventually 24 will want. Great. And here, today is number 3. It's my pear. Would you put number 3 on? Anywhere you want. Great. And you can see in my little basket, I had the other ornaments. So then tomorrow I have to dig out number 4, then I dig out number 5, and I put it on till the 24th. So it's my Advent Santa. So I hope I helped explain what Advent is to those who didn't know it. And I'm excited about this season, and hopefully the world turns better January 1.
Hear these opening words by Adrienne Marie Brown. This is called the Radical Gratitude Spell. You are a miracle in motion, and I greet you with wonder. In a world which seeks to own your joy and your imagination, you have chosen to be free every day. As a practice, I can never know the struggles that you went through to get here, but I know you have swum upstream, and at times it has been lonely. I want you to know that I honor the choices that you've made in solitude, and I honor the work that you have done to belong. I honor your commitment to that which is larger than yourself, and the journey to love the particular vessel of life that is you. You are enough. Your work is enough. You are needed. Your work is sacred. You are here. And I am grateful. Does a video play?
We're just a little too caught up in the way the world sees us and the way my people see yours. We're just a little too caught up in the way the world sees us and the way my people see yours
And the way my people see yours.
and the way our people see ourselves. 1996, a Jewish girl was born with the Shabbat candles glistening in her eyes.
1996, a Muslim girl was born with the adhan ringing in her ears.
She only knew of her own, of
Jum'ah,
Kabbalat Shabbat,
Nashid,
Smirot,
Allah.
Adonai. She never noticed that Muslim girl holding the same needles and threads that she did.
Sewing quilted generations from stitches and calloused palms of their past, like
Friday prayers,
religious songs,
like God. We're both birthed from resilience.
yet raised by assumption.
This Jewish girl,
Muslim girl
only heard
dirty money,
oppressive husbands,
big nose banker,
suspicious
gas
terrorists,
chambers.
go back home,
But it's 2014.
right? So all that's done, right? So why is it that every time a penny falls, I am assumed to be the one to pick it up, stealing from every man's pocket, and every time
An airport security check line moves forward, I'm the one who gets pulled aside and patted down.
we've both looked discrimination in the eye.
We both live in a country that swears up and down that all people are equal.
Our hands should be caught together, fists raised as one, fighting against the stereotypes that this country has put upon my people. In Hebron, a 14-year-old Palestinian girl was killed when a Jewish settler shot a bullet into her right eye. She'll never get to witness her holy land come back to her.
In Herzliya, a 14-year-old Israeli girl was killed by a Palestinian pipe bomb. She was just trying to eat her dinner at her favorite restaurant by the beach.
This world would rather chew up and spit out our history than help these two girls.
That could have been us.
This world has devoured our past.
But how quickly it forgets
You are what you eat. See, this Jewish girl
and this Muslim girl
are far more similar than our religions would like us to believe, because I bet you didn't realize that we have the same favorite movies.
and that we both love
Hummus! And we keep being asked the same darn questions every time we fall head over heels. Is he a respectable Muslim boy?
Jewish boy.
Did you meet him at the mosque?
synagogue.
That little Palestinian girl
And that little Israeli girl
will never get to be asked these questions, never get to discover whether they had the same favorite movies,
or whether they were both going to become poets,
performing on stages like this one, and we may not have either.
had we let the way the world sees us get in our way.
We are connected,
We are one,
like Adonai,
like Allah.
like God.
I am here, and so is my voice. Excellent. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to tell you a story today. So today's service is about sort of conflict, right? And all of these really heavy, intense things that are going on, and how do we deal with that, right? What is the ways in which we are creative, are compassionate, are sort of able to find our way through the world? So with that, today's story is about a farmer. And this farmer had a donkey. Now, this donkey was wandering through the field, and out in the field at the corner was an old well. No one was really using it, and the donkey was going along, minding its business, when suddenly it fell into the well. And in the bottom of the well, it starts to bray, help, help, help me, help me. I'm here in the bottom of the well. Well, the farmer hears the donkey's cries and runs out to the edge and looks down, and it is a very long distance down to the bottom of that well. And, well, the donkey was a little old. And so the farmer thinks, how do I solve this problem? Well, maybe the most compassionate thing to do in this moment would be to bury the donkey in the well. And so he calls all of his neighbors, come help me bury this donkey. And so all the neighbors come, and they begin to get their shovels, and they begin to scoop dirt onto this poor donkey. And the donkey is in the bottom of the well panicking. They are going to kill me. I am at the end of my life. I am being buried by this dirt that is falling down. And they continue to dig and put the dirt in on the donkey. And they hear these donkeys' cries, and it's breaking everyone's heart. And then they notice that those cries turn to laughter. Is that what's going on in this well? Is that what we are hearing from this donkey? Well, it turns out as they continue to drop dirt into this well, the dirt is hitting the donkey on the back. And instead of sitting there, the donkey realizes, if I'm going to do something, I must try to save my life, and so begins to shake, and shakes that dirt off of its back down into the well. And every time the dirt falls off, he climbs up on top. They shovel in more dirt, shakes it off his back, and climbs up on top. And pretty soon, as they're beginning to get to the last of it, and they can no longer hear the cries from the donkey pops out of the top of the well. He's figured out how to save himself. And so with that, I'd like you to think about what sort of creative solutions and ideas and how we can find ourselves in these desperate situations and what we might end up doing to save ourselves. Thank you.
Let us now ground ourselves in the present and honor the thread of humanity that connects us as living beings. If you have someone you would like held up, please add their name to the chat. As humans striving toward a beloved community, we have the privilege and responsibility to hold onto each other as we live the joys and sorrows of life. We take this sacred time to acknowledge the people we hold in our hearts, that in sharing, our triumph and joy may be multiplied, and our pain and sorrow may lessen their sting. Now, we will partake in a common UU ritual of marking our joys and sorrows by lighting a candle from a common flame. This week, it's our Advent wreath. The individual candle signifies a lightness or burden on your heart, and the light they shed together represents the love and strength of our community to hold, support, surround, and celebrate you. There is also a small bowl of lightly scented eucalyptus oil if you would like to anoint yourself to seal this practice. If you would like to participate, please come forward. All are welcome. Today, we hold up Dan Tossig, Alicia Brown, Arabelle Tetlow, who finished her cancer treatments, and Nancy. Irma, do we have anyone in the chat?
Yes. We have Richard Kuzniak, Alex and Cassidy Dossie, Rick and Lisa Blaley, Nathan Dossie, and Monty Hightower.
May we hold all that was spoken and all that is kept in the silence of our hearts in love and compassion.
As we ground ourselves and practice mindfulness and return to our breath, I encourage you to notice first your physical body. Where are you holding stress and tension? If you need to, shrug your shoulders up to your ears, maybe grimace your face, and then just let it all go. And take a big breath in and let it all go. Usually in this moment, I encourage you to close your eyes, but I'm going to ask you to keep them open today and gaze down either at your open two hands or maybe at your lap. And I want you to think about a container. If I asked you to imagine a container that held your community, that you could hold in your two hands, what would it look like? What would its shape be? How does it feel, full of all the people that love you and the people that you love? Thank it in the silence of your heart and then place it down. If I were to ask you to imagine the shape of a container that could hold your pain, what does it look like? What is the shape of it? How does it feel, full of your pain? What is the weight of it? Take a breath, thank it, and place it down. Imagine now in your hands or on your lap a container that holds all of your hope. What is the shape of it? What does it look like? How does it feel, holding all of your hope? Thank that hope for being yours. Take a breath and place it down. Imagine now a container that held all of your fears. What is the shape of it? What does it look like? How does it feel, holding all of the things you're fearful of? Take a breath, thank that, and place it down. Finally, imagine your hands or your lap holding the shape of a container that holds all of your love. What does it look like? How does it feel, full of all the love that you bring to bless this world? What is the shape of it in your hands? What is the weight of it on your lap? Take a breath, thank that love, and place it down. We carry so much more than we ever could possibly do with our lap or our two hands. May we remember today that when things feel too heavy, whether it's our pain and our fear or our hope and our love, that we do not walk alone. Take one final breath and return.
We gather as a religious community to give each one of us a place where we can do the work of many. The offering supports the mission of the congregation to be a beacon of love and justice in the desert, and supports local organizations working to make our community a better place for all. The offering this month is shared with Foster Kinship. Foster Kinship believes when children can't be with their parents, they should be with their family. Its mission is to strengthen kinship caregivers' capacity to provide safe, stable, and nurturing homes for children. This year, UUCLV will be helping many families by getting gifts for children in foster care, staying with their families. We do this in honor of Kathy Espin, who started this tradition here at UUCLV a number of years ago. She was a member who passed away in 2020. This offering is a spiritual practice of generosity that this congregation does as a whole each week. Please join us as a member or friend in this practice. The link to donate your offering will be in the chat on Zoom, and our ushers will pass plates where you can donate. And now, please join with me. With gratitude for the abundance in our own lives, we give for the life of this congregation and the benefit of the larger community. Thank you all for your gifts of treasure. In times of grief and confusion, it's easy to feel immobilized. How can we possibly act when there's no right step? How can we know what to support when everyone seems to be suffering? How can we speak with any groundedness on things others know so much better than we do? A truth about our faith and our values asks us to hold fast to is that holding really hard contradictory truths cannot stop us from acting. What is happening in Palestine and Israel brings up real intergenerational fear and trauma for many people, and real grief and anger about what we've been told will keep us safe. Let this set of contradictory truths written by and for Jews bond you to the conflicting and painful realities of this moment, and then let it guide you toward the declaration of never again for anyone. It is true, many Jews see Israel as essential to Jewish safety. And it is true, maintaining apartheid makes Jews everywhere less safe. It is true, Israeli Jews had their sense of safety shattered on October 7th. And it is true, Palestinians haven't had a day of safety for decades. It is true, the scale of Israeli and Palestinian death is vastly different. And it is true, every life is precious, and every death is a tragedy. It is true that apartheid dehumanizes Palestinians. And it is true that apartheid dehumanizes Israelis. It is true that anti-Semitism can show up in movements to free Palestine. And it is true that false claims of anti-Semitism are used to silence movements to free Palestine. It is true that blaming Jews for the Israeli government's actions is anti-Semitic. And it is true that most prominent Jewish organizations defend the Israeli government's action. It is true that white Christian nationalists love the country of Israel. And it is true that white Christian nationalists hate Jews. It is true, this is complex. Most of the US doesn't know the full history. And it is true, this is not complex. Apartheid is wrong. It is true that Hamas committed war crimes, And it is true that decades of Israeli war crimes and policy helped Hamas gain power. It is true that ceasefire is urgent and necessary. And it is true, ceasefire is not nearly enough.
All right. You know what? Time for what? Time for gift box. Does anyone else want to join us up here for gift box time? You see an emphatic no. All right. So, we're going to start with the requisite shake. Yay, hi. What does it sound like?
Cardboard or something.
All right, sounds like cardboard. Open it up. Let's take a look. Ooh. Oh, hang on. I need a second. It came apart in the shake. Hang on. Okay. Bette. What is this? Read that one more time.
Forgiveness superpower.
It says forgiveness superpowers. All right. So today we're here to talk about what we do in times of conflict. What do we know about conflict? What does that word mean? Anything come to mind?
Arguments.
Arguments, yeah, when stuff feels sticky, right? Kind of those moments when we get stomach aches because not everything feels really great with us and the people that we love, right? The people that we care about. So one of the things that we try to practice when somebody has hurt us or when we have hurt somebody else is
Forgiveness.
And what is forgiveness?
Forgiveness is, I don't know how.
Yeah, I'm going to try to take a whole sermon to describe forgiveness, so it was not fair of me to ask you to define it like that. So I have a couple cards in here that I'm calling the forgiveness superpowers. So why don't each one of you pull one card out, and let's see what's in there. All right, you pull a card. Alanna gets a card. Great. Okay, so I'm going to have you read into the microphone the bold word at the top, and then I'm going to read the little words, okay?
Power. Power. Faith. Courage.
Courage. All right. So we have power, faith, and courage as three of our forgiveness superpowers. The card that says power here, it says, I am strong, I am grounded, I am powerful. I am like the cross between a dinosaur and a tank, but not a tank that's used for war. I am like a peaceful, loving dino tank who feels so strong it doesn't need to do anything but be. What do you think about the idea of power in forgiveness? What can feel powerful about forgiving somebody or forgiving ourselves? Do you have any ideas on that? Sometimes it makes us feel like a stronger person when we're able to forgive somebody, right? It allows us to mend a relationship and come back into friendship or a relationship with our family members. Some people think that forgiving other people is weak, but really, it's a really strong thing that we can do, and it fortifies our power of love. Okay, so Alanna, what's on your card?
Faith.
And this one says, I know in my heart that everything will turn out awesome. So I'm willing to have faith and trust that anything that isn't awesome will eventually lead me to something that is. I'm ready for awesome whenever you are. What do we think about that? Is there anything we have to have faith in when we're forgiving somebody?
You have to have faith in the person.
We have to have faith in the person, right? That they'll come back and that when we apologize or they apologize, that we can have a relationship that's renewed. Yeah, and your card what?
Courage.
You want to read it? No? Okay, I'll read it. This one says courage. No one is fearless. No one. Even though I am not fearless, I am courageous. When fear shows up, I don't run away from it. I use my courage to conquer it. And my courage allows me to walk right up to that fear and say, no more. Any ideas how being courageous and brave helps us forgive people?
You have to be brave to be able to forgive somebody.
You have to be brave to be able to forgive somebody. And it's not always easy to say that you're sorry. And it's not always easy to listen to somebody else's sorry, right? Sometimes it's easier to be like, you hurt me, I don't want anything to do with you. But if we can move from a place of braveness, bravery and courage, then we can come back to places and work on mending relationships. There's some more superpowers in here too, but we can look at them later if you want. Yeah? Okay, thanks. When there's conflict with members of my family of origin, we often find ourselves neatly and mindlessly arranged into alliances, typically leaving one person on the outs. It's not nefarious, and it's not even intentional, but it is as much tradition as walnut and honey colatch on Christmas morning. The alliances are constantly breaking and reforming. Sometimes my sister and I are in a period of closeness. Sometimes my mom and I, sometimes the two of them. It really mostly depends on the intimacy of the moment, the frequency of communication, the amount of time any two of us are spending together by chance. It's never our intention to leave someone out, and we've all been the one left feeling the awkward third wheel, but it is a familial habit by now, and a familiar pain. And nothing worsens that pain like loneliness. I know we've all had times when the embers of our hurt were fanned by flames of isolation and separateness. It can feel like living life looking through a one-way mirror. Everybody else seems connected and cared for while you feel unwanted and forgotten. Grief loves company because humanness loves company. Love loves company. Pain loves witness. Joy wants to be seen and known. Our very human, very universal emotions don't arise in a vacuum, and while they often make us feel exceptional in the moment, they are one of the ties that bind us together. Furthermore, they often seem to be boiling over, the good and the bad, because our pots or our containers are simply inefficient to hold them. The larger container that companionship and community offer is necessary for us to hold all that is brutal and all that is beautiful in our lives. And pain itself rarely arises without other factors. The bumps that cause our physical, emotional, and spiritual bruises leave a mark on that which has been bumped. And we become two entities, gazing at each other, equally bruised, wondering how to balance the independent and interdependent work of healing toward wholeness once again. And wholeness by whose definition? Are we striving for a return to wholeness as an individual or as a community? And when both aren't possible, which is more important? Maybe the goal is forgiveness. The unique pain and gift of forgiveness is that it can happen without anyone else's participation or consent. Practicing forgiveness is a way to dictate the bounds of your own freedom. The Greater Good Science Center at Berkeley defines forgiveness as the conscious, deliberate decision to release feelings of resentment or vengeance toward a person or group who has harmed you, regardless of whether or not they deserve it. As a product of years of scientific study, it is considered a truth that the capacity for forgiveness is a built-in feature of human nature. Interestingly enough, the desire for revenge also is. And forgiveness isn't actually an especially human experience. Relatively recent science suggests that forgiveness is something likely experienced by many animals. even those without especially big and active brains like us. Funny enough, this conciliatory behavior has been identified in many species, including the bonobos, mountain gorillas, and chimps, though never our fickle friend, the house cat. In the wild, over 50% of aggressive encounters between chimpanzees were followed by some sort of friendly contact, like kissing, submissive vocal sounds, touching, and embrace. Our relatives, the other great apes, are also known for reconciliation, and it's not just limited to primates. Goats, sheep, dolphin, hyena all show reconciliatory behavior after conflict, often seen to be rubbing horns and flippers and kindly touching fur. The scientists agree. Animals reconcile because it repairs important relationships that have been damaged by aggression. By forgiving and repairing relationships, our ancestors were in a better position to glean the benefits of cooperation between group members. It seems the ability to understand the difference between a bad moment and a bad being is beneficial to us all as we attempt to live in compassionate, caring community. Because we are a communal species, many of the lessons we learn about how to be together are a product of actually being together. Our messages about forgiveness and repair come from observing our relatives, teachers, and community members. We learn culturally through religious teachings, myths, tradition, art, marketing campaigns. We are also exposed to important generational shifts that prioritize one way of living above another. Many people, for example, find today's society to overemphasize individualization and the formation of our specific independent identities. And what's lost here are experiences that deepen our understanding of where we come from and our connection to those that came before us. When I was 14 years old, my dad decided to leave our family. Our relationship was cut short, and my not yet adult brain desperately looked for ways to make sense of that pain. It felt like the moment in the Disney adaptation of Hercules where the fates cut a lifeline with a pair of short scissors. Except my dad's soul didn't meet Hades, it stayed in his human body, which moved across the world and started a different family. Without any communication or rationale from him, I've spent the better part of the past 20 years of my life trying to make sense of the parental loss that I carry in my soul. For a long time, I carried hope for us to heal together. I carried him and our relationship like a seed in my pocket that I dreamed one day we would plant together, nourishing a relationship that would in turn nourish us. But recently, something shifted inside of me. I've grown weary of holding this hope by myself. It feels too heavy. And so I've chosen the path that I can walk alone, forgiveness. And I'm practicing putting down the weight that I can no longer carry by myself. But that's the thing about forgiveness. It's a kindness that you can't offer to others without ending up in the splash zone yourself. And as I forgave my dad for not loving me better, I forgave parts of myself that hadn't taken good care of me along the way. As I extended him the grace for doing the best that he could, I had to look in the mirror and honor my good intentions, even when my impact missed the mark. In working on forgiving him, I became a lighter and more loving person toward the world and to myself. The work of reconciliation is a different kind of tough, requiring a sort of table, maybe set with some tea and we promise to be nice to each other cookies, where both of you can pull up a chair and practice leaning into the pain. The listening for understanding, learning about yourself and another, being open to change, all sound great in theory, but in action can feel like sandpaper on your soul. Talking to your own parts calls on a private bravery. But talking to another's parts is a public opportunity for pain, an exercise in vulnerability, practicing mutual disarmament. Reconciliation is an invitation to practice co-creation, not merely repeating the patterns and relationships that we've inherited, but charting new territories for ourselves. For the 20 years that I carried the seed of hope for reconciliation with my father, I imagined our reunion. We'd come together, plant and nurture the thing we wanted to grow, commit to sharing the responsibility, and mutually reap the benefits of this thing that we both equally loved. But he never came. And in the time I spent waiting for his arrival, the seed molded and dried out in my pocket. And instead of using a well of strength to hold something that would one day bear fruit, I was overextending myself to compensate for his absence. It required something of me I was no longer able or willing to give freely. There is relief in reconciliation, but there's exhaustion too. And there is freedom in forgiveness, but there is certain grief too. So is this work better done together or apart? The answer certainly is both. It's not mutually exclusive. And I think of the Buddhist practice of metta meditation or loving kindness. In this practice, you focus on extending loving kindness not only to yourself, to those you love, and to the world, but also to someone you consider especially difficult. Maybe someone you've had a disagreement with, or someone you're not able to be in relationship with anymore. And in our attempt to generate and practice compassion in human relations, the work that we do by ourselves, in the quiet chambers of our own heart, matters. And I also think of practices of compassionate and intentional listening, of nonviolent communication and conflict resolution, of the commitment to return to covenant, the setting of the table, the welcoming of the other, the willingness to look in the eye of someone who has harmed us with a hope to understand, repair, and love better. My mom raised me to know that an apology has 3 parts: an earnest and specific, I am sorry, a willingness to remedy anything possible in the moment, and a wholehearted attempt to not inflict the same pain in the future. Our spirituality acknowledges that friction is unavoidable in community. We can try our hardest and our best, walk with the most intention and care, and we will still inflict and experience hurt. Just as suffering is guaranteed in life, conflict is guaranteed in community. And we can't accept each other and encourage spiritual growth without holding space for the rifts that naturally occur when 2 objects in motion brush against one another. I don't think that we can talk about blessing the world without forgiving the world. And I don't think that we can try to forgive the world without holding the world and its inhabitants to account. But this work is so painful and so exhausting to do. Reaching across lines of difference and misunderstanding, over oceans of cultural divide, and through ancient histories that wrote our very lives into existence. What does it even mean to hold the world and its inhabitants to account? Maybe it's an invitation into practicing paradox. Can we extend grace to communities that are doing their best to intervene in cycles of conflict and know that those efforts are not sufficient as innocent people are killed every day? Can we recognize the impacts of historical persecution, the true epigenetic impacts, the way our actual DNA is changed by trauma, and still hold communities accountable for perpetuating oppression? Can we pivot from planting seeds of reconciliation to holding ceremonies of grief for those who never showed up to make things right? We can't slap bandages onto these mortal wounds. We can't heal ancestral traumas that have been passed down like family heirlooms by making a silent pact to never talk about them. We can't bomb and oppress our way into peace and liberation. We can't perform the work of forgiveness or reconciliation or even revenge, thinking we can just go through the motions and earn the reward of inner peace. The sanctuary of our own minds, our own relationships and our own communities is only tended when we are brave and naked enough to go to the root of the pain and sit in front of it like a student sitting in front of a teacher. No spiritual bypassing, no rushing, and no performing. And we can't pretend we aren't living in the shared pain of centuries of patriarchal domination, colonization, genocide, and ecocide. We can't deny the shared but silent anxiety and dread that we all carry like an old, battered briefcase full of rocks. Deep, ragged wounds cannot be immediately stitched closed. If they are closed without healing from the inside outward, they putrefy and cause sepsis. Instead, they must be kept clean and open, letting muscle and tissue re-knit from the bottom up until they can finally heal into a smooth scar. This is not a quick fix. It is a long, careful process. Healing cannot be rushed, and it has to happen from the roots. Offerings of reconciliation and return are tender tethers to our shared humanity. Both are a requisite practice for one hoping to stay close to the work of justice, equity, and compassion. May we be surrounded by love that helps us toggle between these two efforts of the soul. May the communities that we foster in careful love act as antidote to our isolation and help us remember that amidst overwhelming pain, we are never alone. May these efforts nourish the new and lasting parts of ourselves, and may we be made anew in our shared and individual healing again and again. Blessed be. Please rise in body or spirit for our closing hymn, number 1025 in the Teal hymnal, When Will the Fighting Cease?
And we will be repeating this 3 times, singing through it 3 times. When will the fighting cease? When will we live in peace? When our love breaks boundaries? When will the fighting cease? When will we live in peace? When our love breaks boundaries? When will the fighting cease? When will we live in peace? When our love breaks boundaries. Two weeks ago, diverse and revolutionary Unitarian Universalist Multicultural Ministries, also called DRUM, released an open letter to UU colleagues on the war and occupation in Palestine. We quote them here. We call upon Unitarian Universalists to demand an immediate ceasefire without conditions, support for humanitarian aid, an end to the U.S. military support for the State of Israel, and immediate release of the nearly 10,000 Palestinian refugees held in Israel and the 240 Israeli hostages taken on October 7th. It also means broadly committing to an end to the occupation, joining the fight for a free Palestine, and engaging in hard and necessary conversations about the impacts of Zionism. We encourage you to continue listening to stories from those impacted by this crisis, and then reach out to your representatives to make sure your voice is heard. History is repeating itself, and our moral action is one critical action we can take to interrupt the cycle of violence. On the slide, you can see the senators and representatives for Southern Nevada. You can find voting history, office phone numbers, and official websites of all elected representatives at www.govtrack.us. That's www.govtrack.us. and please join me personally in emailing and calling your representatives.
We finished today where we started with some words from Adrienne Maree Brown. Listen, we hibernate and heal during dark ages until you forget that the world used to revolve around mothers, until you forget how a spell is just earth and breath joined across a tongue, until you forget how a finger can be a wand and the earth can tell you how to burn and how to grow and when to harvest and what it means to love. How a stand of trees teaches us family, how a ghost can teach us devotion. Yes, until you forget the ancestors that walk with us and guide us and make us dream. Until we see the truth in it all. How we are, each of us, a pulse in the singular life of the divine, unable to comprehend how beautiful it is to take one whole, perfect, never again breath. Until you forget and then remember how we are all a part of God.
And now join with me. We release that which is called with love and gratitude, and we extinguish the flame, but not our commitment, being a beacon in the desert. This burns brightly until we gather again.
We have room for 3 announcements to be read at upcoming services. If you want your announcement read, please email Irma by Thursday and she will get it to the worship associate. Please include the name of the event, the date and time, a contact name, and no more than a 30-word description. If you would like to support the families in the Foster Kinship Annual Christmas Gift Program, please be in touch with Rory. It's also time for the annual Chalice celebration, starting on Monday, tomorrow, December 4th, through December 11th. We invite you to take some time from your day to pause, light a chalice, and reflect on what it means to practice living out each of our 8 principles. This celebration is for everyone, young and old. Chalices, rainbow candles, suggested readings, and activities are available after the service. Again, please reach out to Rory. Finally, please note the first Sunday lunch bunch today is canceled, but will resume in the new year. Thank you all for being with us today, and thanks especially to Maggie, Rory, and the tech team for making our services possible. Please join us next Sunday for our first guest minister, Roger Jones, for his service, The Stories in Our Head That Get in Our Way.